Hi everyone, this is Tim at Broken Dice, bringing you another turn in my Greeks versus Romans solo war game. This is turn 4. Um, I did a couple of small videos on it, one like a setup video, and then one that just it was just like a really short clip on some things that had happened, because basically, with my failed orders rolls and stuff, which were epic in the first 3 turns, nothing literally hardly happened. I had a cavalry engagement on my far right, and that was it over the first 3 turns. Turn 4, on the other hand, because the Romans were able to get so close to my units, they just missed their charge. Things are now heated up, and it kind of warrants a video. Up to this point, it really didn't warrant that sort of effort. Really, there was really not much to see. All right, at the top of my turn 4, again, I'm very consistent. I failed another orders roll for a charge. Excuse me. At least you can say I'm consistent. I got that going for me. But this is going to be something I think is going to come back to haunt me. This one turn right here, not being able to reach the Romans and disrupt their ability to get to my infantry. That's going to be a major problem for me, I think, in turn 5 and 6. Okay, so again, another failed leadership roll. So, discarding any attempt to issue orders, I decided to allow the initiatives to take precedent here and allow my units just to use their initiative to charge into these Romans. Yeah, it just seemed like the better of all the options I had available to me. Moving from my right to my left, more charges using initiative. Yeah, that cavalry unit you see right there to the kind of the left, and yeah, they had some success early on for the Romans. They took out 2 of my light cavalry units plus a unit of Peltas, but they couldn't overrun again for a 3rd time per the rules, so they kind of got themselves stuck in a bad way. Most of the time when cavalry was successful, especially in the ancient world, there wasn't a lot of command and control after contact. And so I did roll to see if they could flee this charge, but they failed not flee, but to evade the charge. So they're stuck, and they're just going to have to fight it out. Well, that was all my charge moves, so we go back into the combat phase. This is an ongoing combat. The Galatians, the infantry, basically it's Gallic infantry, they've won 2 rounds of combat against these cavalry units. The first one was the cavalry charged them and just rolled horribly for my Greek cavalry, and didn't work. So now they're stuck in this grinding combat, and they're losing it badly. But let's just say, yeah, I'm not so confident in this one anymore. Well, my lack of confidence was justified as they promptly lost this combat again. Although they didn't break, they did move back again, and this is going to place them dangerously close to the edge of the table, and that's going to have probably a lot of bad effects in this game for me. The outcome of them running off the table or being broken for the rest of the army is going to be disastrous, I think. Yeah, I didn't see the final position and the outcome of the combat. Losing it, getting pushed back. I wish I didn't even think about maybe moving the camera down a little bit so you could actually see the edge of the table. But there's only like 6 inches between the back supporting unit and the edge of the table. So they lose again and have to give ground, they'll be pushed off the table. and that will not be good for me with that unit of infantry in front of this cavalry engagement. That's when they turn and face the side of my phalanx. It'll be all over with. That, and I got that second line of Romans coming in. Yikes! I got to get some done. I need some luck. I really do. I need some luck here. Speaking of getting some luck, at least a little bit, my Silver Shields won their combat against this cohort, plus that supporting unit of javelin men, and were able to push them back. I was hoping that, beyond all hope, that they could actually destroy this unit, but it's just, Romans are tough. Whatever era of Romans you're playing, they are a tough nut to crack, and it's difficult. But at least I got them to go back, which may or may not benefit me. We'll have to see how this plays out. In this combat next to the Silver Shields, excuse me, this unit actually lost combat to the Roman cohort and of supports, but they were able to hold their ground in good order. That's a big deal. That could have been, you know how those dice are. All it takes is one bad roll and the game can unravel really quickly. Yeah, I was hoping for better out of this, but yeah, we'll see. On to the next one. Here is the consequence of me losing, of me failing all those orders rolls early on in the game. The War Elephant to the front and then the very center of my battle line never moved. So now it was in combat with this cohort of Romans and two supporting units of skirmishers. This would be the second turn of combat, and as you can see, it's lost the combat. It had to give ground, but if we go by the rules, because it has nowhere to go, or the unit that it's running into has no way of giving way for them, moving left or right or back, that means that unit's automatically destroyed. Historically, I find that would be, I don't know. So what I did was I actually basically fought a round of combat between my pike block and the War Elephant. And neither side did any damage, but the rationale in making the pike block disordered is that perhaps they weren't able to kill it, but they had to move out of the way for it to run through their ranks. And unlike a Roman cohort's ability to expand and contract against a threat like that, a phalanx doesn't have that option. So I thought it was kind of historically accurate to disorder this unit, and it's going to be disordered in the next round of combat as well. It's not going to come, because this is my part of turn 3. Normally at the end of your turn you take your disorder markers off. Well, I think this needs to go until the beginning of my next turn, if they're not in combat and stuff. But I think that would be, I don't know, it has more of a historical feel to it. So we lose the War Elephant. Yeah, with the War Elephant being destroyed, I don't think the Romans would just be, I mean, they had the momentum, they had charged this War Elephant and killed it, or got it to actually not to give ground. So as it ran away, I don't think that they would have just stood there. I think they would have followed up on that. And so using their victorious unit move, not an overrun, not an overrun, what is it? A sweeping advance. Not using the sweeping advance, but because they were close enough, I felt like it was historically accurate for them to follow up and get engaged with this unit as well. Now, they're not going to count as charging, but they're going to have this unit in front of them be disordered. So it's going to be a tough combat for my Greek phalanx, that's for sure. Yeah, we'll see how this turns out. So here we have two pike blocks attacking this cohort. Now this is where I thought I would have a real advantage. One is the attacker and one is supporting. The one on the right in the mainly white tunics, they're the supporting unit. They did win the combat, but they didn't break this unit. They just forced it to give ground. I was hoping again for a little better out of this. I needed to break one of these frontline cohorts to give me at least a chance before that second line shows up and the third line shows up. But it didn't happen, so that's too bad. So we'll see how this turns out. I mean, we won the combat. We're going to push them back, but I turned 5 and 6. So having won that combat and we've pushed this unit back, I couldn't even get them to be disordered. I was really depressed about this one. This one, I had high hopes for this one, but it didn't work out. So yeah, like I said, I think turn 5s and 6 is going to really, it's going to be important. Well, actually, I'm actually jumping ahead of things here. We still got the Roman part of turn 4 to survive. That's going to be awful too. Oh man. Oh well. Let's go on to the next combat. Okay, here's the combat between my Greek hoplite kind of allied infantry against the Roman cavalry. Now, the reason this Roman cavalry is so deep is they won successive rounds of combat, did a sweeping advance into some peltas, destroyed them, but because they couldn't sweeping advance another time, they were kind of stuck right in front of this unit of Greek hoplites. This unit is from the far left infantry division, and so they were an easy target for them to charge. I did roll to see if the Roman cavalry could evade, but I failed that roll. So they had to fight it out. They became shaken, plus additional wounds, but I rolled a 10 for their break test, and so they just gave ground. And they weren't even disordered. I know they're shaken, but couldn't even make them disordered. Doggone it. So we've got this coming up for next turn. So let's just see where they wind up on the table. And you can see, like on the right, in relationship to this combat, you can kind of see about how deep that cavalry unit had been towards my line. With my failed orders, I'd never moved. They came to me. This is the first turn. This turn 3 is the first time my infantry had moved, and I had to use initiative orders to do that. Yeah. So after the combat and the units have been moved, you can see how far back the cavalry was pushed, and then you can see the relationship to where that combat to their right is going on, how far they were able to push them back. Yeah, it was nice, but it didn't get them off the table. So I kind of bummed out about that one. Yeah. So let's take a look at the far left next. Okay, so now you can see where that combat is in relation to the rest of the Greek divisions that are on this end. The Greek light cavalry, they were just throwing their javelins at this unit that's in front of them. That unit on the Roman part of turn 3, the infantry units that are coming down off the hill, they failed their charge into these light cavalry, trying to sweep them away and get into this infantry division that I have over here. But I failed another order roll, go figure. Um, so that kind of left this as in a like a stalemate here. It's going to really depend on how this Roman cavalry does in the next couple of turns of combat being shaken. I've had shaken units before. You roll really high, it can be very frustrating trying to break a shaken unit, and they just keep rolling high on the break chart. So yeah, it can be frustrating. We'll see how this one turns out. Um, yeah, not much for these guys to do until we can get those cavalry out of the way. So let's go on to the next bit of the battlefield here, which is we're going to take another look at what's going on the right and talk about its strategic implications. Okay, taking a look at this on my far right with this cavalry engagement, you can kind of see how deep and how far back those cavalry units have been pushed by that infantry. If you look on the far left, you can see just the end of that combat past my silver shields. My silver shields won, and they moved forward and pushed that infantry unit back. So they're 12 inches away from the edge of the table. Well, the unit next to them that you can just see the corner of, they lost their combat. That's the unit that lost their combat but remained in place in good order. So the end of that unit is only about 6 inches away from the table. So if you look down here back onto the right of this photograph, this cavalry units that are losing badly to this infantry have been pushed to where they're within I think it's like 4 or 5 inches of the table edge. Even if they don't break, if they get forced off the table, that frees up that infantry unit to move down my flank against any unit they want. Plus, as you can tell at the top of this photo, we have the second line of Roman cohorts coming in. This is going to be tough. I need some luck in this next turn. Okay, in this picture you can see where my two victorious units that have pushed back their cohorts, you're kind of making this like a U, but it's created this salient right in the middle of my line. And it's going to be paramount for those two units that are in the center of my line to hold. And hopefully I can get my skirmishers back on the table to lend some support to some of these units. Because I think that's been the tipping point for the Roman cohorts. They've had their skirmishers available to them as supports, where mine evaded the Romans, but they evaded off the table. So I'm rolling an order roll, obviously you know how successful I've been with those in this game, for them to come back onto the table. Well, I guess they left on turn 2, no, turn 3. They just left. So this is turn 4. I didn't get them to come back on this turn. So I'm fighting at a disadvantage without having that support is what I'm getting at. And so you can see where these Romans, they'll be able to move in, start adding to support these frontline units that have been fighting. Yeah, I was hoping for a little bit better performance early on, but that's why we roll the dice and play the game, so it doesn't work out like it would on paper, you know. So it'll be interesting. I'm trying to figure out a way. What can I do, even if I have some success somewhere? How can I take that success and turn it into something later on in the game? I don't know. We'll have to see. Okay, this is kind of a shot down the table. Kind of gives you an idea of what it's turning into with the maneuver of the units on the table. Yeah, you see the 2 units that were successful. I've got that salient that's been created in my line. You got the Roman second and third lines moving up. Yeah, I need something to happen for me really, really exceptionally on the Roman part of turn 4 or my turn part of 5. If it goes into 6 and 7 and I haven't had any kind of breakthrough, I just think it'll be a mopping up operation for the Romans after that. But we'll see. We will see. So here we're looking at the ambushing cavalry for the Romans. These are, I'm using my Spanish light cavalry for those units. And what I'd originally set up is that when my infantry, I thought my infantry would make it past the very end of this tree line. And once my infantry got there, then I would start rolling to see whether these guys would come in on the ambush, because they are part of this very far right Roman, far right, the right Roman division. And I tried to roll that on their turn 3, but it failed. Because I was failing so many rolls, I don't think my infantry was going to get there at any sort of time frame, so I started rolling a little early for it. But I failed. That's why the infantry wasn't able to move those light cavalry units out of the way that's in front of them. I failed their charge order. So yeah, another failed orders roll. What do you think? Yep, just my luck. Okay, now this set of photographs, these are the 4 things that I see on the tabletop that I've got to have some success at. On the top left are my silver shields. They have got to get rid of this cohort. It's going to get more support. If the Romans pass their orders, they're going to be supported. So if nothing else, they're just going to have to hold. The photo on the top right, that's my double depth phalanx there. They need to get rid of this unit. And this unit, more than likely, will be able to be supported by another cohort of Romans. And again, if nothing else, they're going to have to hold. I'm hoping that I can find some success in a different part of the battlefield. Maybe the hoplite unit that's fighting the cavalry can finally break loose, but yet there's another allied division for the Romans that's right there. So it's not like they can turn their back to it. So yeah, that's it's turning into quite a problem-solving exercise for me, which I like. But this one, I think it's I don't think I have enough of the answers to pass this test. And then on the bottom left, obviously, the Roman allied light cavalry. If they come in on the flank on Roman turn 4 and have all those units that they have to engage, then I'm not going to have anything break free on that flank. And obviously we've already seen where that cavalry on my far right is being pushed almost to the edge of the table. I've got some problems, but that's okay. I like that when I'm playing a solo game. Well, that brings us to the end of this video. I hope you guys like this stuff. If you do, like, subscribe, do all that kind of stuff. But leave a comment down below. What do you think the way I handled the war elephant scenario? Do you think that sounds all right to you? If you don't, how would you have handled that situation? Leave a comment down below. I'd be interested to know. All right. that's the end of this, and I hope all your games are going well. Hope all your projects are going well. So everybody stay safe, stay well, and I'll see you next time.